Hello, I'm Sarah Welch with Cornerstone Environmental Health and Safety.
Hello, I am Bob Caffiello, also with Cornerstone.
Today, we are going to be your host for the introductory video of how to take stormwater samples.
Sarah, we just got some boxes delivered and they say perishable.
It's not food. These are our stormwater.
Darn it.
I know. This is our stormwater kit. So when it comes from the lab, sometimes it does come in a box that says perishable on it. So let's unpack the stormwater kit. You'll notice it comes with a nice styrofoam container to keep everything cold.
Bubble wrap. That's great.
Inside the kit, you'll find the chain of custody. More on that later, but I did want to point out that if you forget everything I'm telling you, there are sampling instructions in here. There's also information on how to calibrate the pH meter. You will find the pH meter in here as well, and we'll go over that later. You'll also find Ziploc bags for crushed ice. The samples do have to be returned to the lab on ice. So you'll need to either buy ice from the gas station or from the grocery store and return the samples back to the lab on ice. Or you can use the enclosed freezy packs that come with the sample. There are obviously bottles in your sampling kit. There are 2 large bottles, 1 small one, and a glass bottle. If you do have to sample for metals, you'll also receive another glass bottle. I did want to point out that the lab, if you have multiple outfalls, they will label the top of the bottles for which outfall the bottles go with. So you'll also notice that the small plastic bottle and the glass bottles have tape on them because these are the ones that have preservative inside them. So be very careful when you open them and don't spill the preservative. All of those instructions are also in the paperwork that comes with the kit. Sometimes when you do unpack your kit, the glass bottle may be broken. If that happens, contact the lab. The phone number is on the sampling instructions that are included with the kit. Or you can call Cornerstone and we'll help you get a new bottle out to you so you can take your samples. So I've shown you what is included in a typical stormwater kit. I did want to point out that you will need to check your state permit to make sure that you understand what parameters you will be sampling for. And the bottles may look different. They may be taller, they may be glass versus plastic, and the metals may also need to be sampled in a plastic bottle versus glass bottle, and I just want to make sure that you understand what you're sampling for. Also, your pH meter may look different than the one that we will be calibrating here in a few minutes. And you may not even have to take a pH reading. Be sure to check your permit. I have showed you what is typically in a stormwater kit for one outfall. arrives in a small box. If you have more than one outfall, your kit may come in a big cooler like this one, or a bigger box, or you may get more than one box arriving to you. And as I mentioned before, the top of the bottles will be labeled for which outfall they are for. So everything should be clearly labeled for you. Hey Bob, let's calibrate the pH meter before we take our stormwater sample.
I think that is a great idea.
Awesome. I happen to have the instructions right here.
So we will need those instructions to be able to calibrate this meter.
Okay. First, let's make sure the battery works.
Oh, that's a good idea. Here is our pH meter. Isn't that a pretty green?
Yeah.
That's very nice. Okay. So we will hit the start button.
Power.
Power. Okay. pH 12.2, 12. Yes, it is working. But I think we do have to calibrate the meter.
It shouldn't read 12.
It shouldn't.
That can't be right.
What?
How would I change the batteries?
Well, funny you should ask. Wait a minute, let me see. Yep, there we go. 7.0. That's perfect. Okay. If you happen to get a meter and it's not working and it looks dead, nothing comes on when you hit the power button, then you can take this off, I think. You said you did this before?
I have done it before.
Well, okay, cut. There we go. Battery's on the top of the meter. Pull off the lid here, and there they are. It's 4 little, I don't know what things are called.
Like button batteries.
Button batteries that you would use if you find your meter is not working. Then you should go out and get some of these and replace them, and then the meter should operate just fine. I've been looking forward to this all day.
I know you have been.
We'll just make sure we fill these up.
What is that?
This is the pH buffer solution 4. And then the green is a 7. And it says what? To put 20 mil in
Yes.
there? Okay, well, this is probably a little bit more than that, but that's okay. There's really no other use for these buffer solutions, and we return them with the meter back to the lab, so there's really no other uses for this. So, okay. So what's the next step according to the instructions?
I do have the instructions.
All right.
All right. First step would be to remove the cap from the pH meter. So it looks like the pH meter comes with 7.0 solution.
Yes. I notice it's green, the same as our solution. That's great.
Okay. Turn on the power.
On the power. All right. Power is on.
All right. The next step would be to dip the sensor in at least 20 milliliters of a pH buffer solution of your choosing.
We will choose 4.
All right.
Does that sound all right?
Sure.
Okay.
Stir gently and press the calibration or the CAL button to begin the calibration.
All right. It is
All right.
calibrating.
This display will show CAL,
It did. That's good.
and you should have a clock icon that is flashing.
Yes, it is flashing.
The clock icon will stop blinking when the pH reading is stable.
All right. Doing a little blinking here, but it's working its way through.
Okay. Then you will get a check mark when the buffer has been detected.
Okay. There's the check mark. We're good.
After 3 seconds, it will automatically say done when it is confirmed the calibration.
Okay.
Or-
There's the done.
You can hit the return or the arrow button to manually accept the value.
Oh, okay. Because it says 4.
Okay.
We're good to go. Okay.
Now, rinse in between each testing to calibrate additional. So rinse and repeat.
All right. When you get the meter, it comes with a little deionized water that you can use for the for rinsing of the meter.
Put it back in the cap. You want to ensure that you keep the pH meter upright so that you don't spill any of the solution. Now we'll clean up our mess.
No, we didn't leave a mess. It looks very nice.
It does.
These buffer solutions can go back with the meter, back to the lab. There's no reason to hold on to them for any reason, so you can just go back with to the lab.
And we're done. When you are deciding on when to take your stormwater sample, be sure and check your stormwater permit to understand the monitoring criteria. Most states require you to have a measurable storm event. A measurable storm event is defined as an event which results in a total measured storm accumulation equal to or greater than 0.1 inches of rainfall. Also, be sure to understand your time frame. Some states require you to take your sample every 6 months or annually or more often than that. And you need to have at least 72 hours between those measurable storm events. Be sure and check the stormwater permit to see if snow or ice melt can be used for sampling. Some states don't allow you to use snow or ice melt. In general, a stormwater sample should be a grab sample, which means that you will be collecting the sample within the first half hour or an hour of the discharge occurring at your outfall or as soon as possible thereafter. Be sure and check your permit to see what the state definition of a grab sample is. Also, if you are required to take a pH reading, you do need to take your pH reading within 15 minutes of collecting the sample.
Well, Sarah, do you know where the outfall is?
I do, and Bob, since you don't know, you need to check our stormwater plan.
Well, I checked the map before we came out,
Good.
and I know it's somewhere in this area. And
Well, I hear water.
I do hear water, so we need to look for the outfall.
All right. Well, we have our box, our kit, so we're ready to go.
All right. Well,
Oh, there's our pipe.
there's our pipe. I think we're good. Okay, let's get rid of that. All right, here is our outfall. This is what, outfall 001?
Yes.
Okay.
We need to put a sign here because some states require that you label the outfalls.
I think we ought to do that, yes. Let's put that on our list of things to do. All right, well, I think we can take our sample. We got a flow. We got water, we got enough water. We can get the bottle down in here to take a sample. I think we're good to go.
All right, I'll get the kit.
All right. Well, I think we have good flow, so we can take our sample now.
You want to use just that bottle?
Well, why don't we use this bottle to fill the other bottles?
Okay.
Will that work?
Yes.
Okay, let's do that.
Be sure to fill your bottles all the way to the top, but not to overfill them. You also want to make sure that you have good enough flow and your bottle is far enough down into your outfall that you don't get excessive amount of sediment. The water looks pretty clear.
It does. It looks really good.
All right, I'll grab some more bottles for you.
Now the glass bottle, this is the one that had the preservative in it, right?
Yes, thank you for not overfilling
Yeah,
it.
I came really close. Okay, so we just need to fill this one up then,
Yep,
right?
that's it for us.
Get some more in there. There we go.
Oh, you have the lid.
I have a lid on that one, yeah.
Make sure you don't lose the lids.
Sarah, are we taking our pH reading yet?
We have not.
Oh.
Make sure, yep, you've got the bottle that's labeled for pH. You want to make sure you take your sample for pH reading out of that sample bottle.
All right.
All right. I will grab the pH meter. I'm gonna turn it on. Shake off the excessive amount of buffer that it comes in. All right, here we go. Waiting for it to stabilize. 7.1. All right.
That's excellent.
See how easy that was? All right. You want to make sure that you return your pH meter back to the lab. If you're required to take a pH reading, then definitely return the pH meter back to the lab. And mark on the chain of custody form the pH reading and with your date and the initials.
We're good to go.
Yes. If your sampling point just happens to be a manhole in your parking lot, make sure that you don't have any cars parked over the top of your outfall. You can put up a sign that clearly marks this is your outfall, or just simply go ask your employees to move their car. Some states do require that you label the outfalls. Now that we've collected our stormwater sample, it's time to fill out our chain of custody form before we ship the sample back to the lab. On your chain of custody form, you should see your company name, address, phone number, and possibly a project number associated with your sampling. If the billing information is not already filled out, you can fill it out or just leave it blank. There is a box across the top for sampler signature. This should be the place where whoever collected your stormwater sample, they need to sign this box. Just underneath that is a box for the shipping method. Circle which type of method you'll be delivering the sampling kit back to the lab. Underneath, across the middle, you'll see a box for regulation, which regulation this applies to. If it's not already pre-marked for you, mark the box for NPDES. That stands for National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, of which stormwater sampling falls under that regulation. You'll also want to mark the box for the turnaround time, or how soon you want your analysis back from the lab. So standard time is usually a week to 10 days, or you can mark rush, which will incur a surcharge, but it will also make sure that you get the analysis back to you sooner. Across the middle of the chain of custody form is a list of your outfalls and possibly a description. Next to each outfall, you want to mark down the date and the time that the sample was collected. Then you'll notice across the middle also a list of your parameters. These are the parameters that the lab is going to be sampling for, and the analysis that you'll receive back for each parameter. If you notice one that's missing, you can hand mark it in or call the lab and they can make sure that your parameter gets analyzed for. Then on the right hand side is a spot that if you need to collect a pH sample or a pH reading in the field, you'll need to mark down the date and the time that that pH reading was taken, and also mark down your initials for who took the pH reading. You'll want to make sure that the pH reading date and time is different than the date and time of when the sample was collected, since the pH reading needs to be taken within 15 minutes of the time that the sample was collected, but it's not taken at the exact same time. So those two time frames should not be the same. Then across the bottom, you'll want to sign under the box that says relinquished by. This means you are sending the kit back to the lab and relinquishing the samples to the lab. You want to mark down the date and time and make sure that that is signed. Then when the lab receives your sampling kit, they will sign it and date it as well. The lab will also mark down any notes about what the sample looks like when it is delivered to the lab, and whether or not it was received on ice, and if it's within the proper temperature range. And across the bottom of the chain of custody form are a list of the different labs and their phone numbers. Make sure that you return the kit to the proper lab. There should be a label, a shipping label, or an address marked on your instruction forms of which lab you need to return the sample to. If you have any questions about the chain of custody form, contact Cornerstone.
All right, now it's time to ship your sample to the lab. You've already collected your sample, so hopefully you've taken your freezer packs and you put them in the freezer. Okay, so now here's your cooler that came from the lab. So we're going to use the same container to send it back to the lab. So if you have your freezer packs that you've already frozen, you can go ahead and put them in there. If you did not freeze the packs or you didn't get them, you can also use crushed ice. They ask that you double bag it. So fill one bag up with ice, then put it in another bag. That way these bags might leak, and that way all the water is contained inside the second bag. Either one will work. You don't have to do both. In this case, just for demonstration purposes, we'll show both. So you put your packs in, and you put your sample bottles in. And then also, with your samples came the pH meter. There's no reason for you to hold on to this, and so you need to definitely send that back with the samples. to the lab. Now, as far as where to send the sample, on the chain of custody or with the chain of custody form, there'll be a label with an address. In this case, it goes back to the Fort Wayne office for Element. So just go ahead and ship it to that location. Now, as far as shipping samples, we need to, there are holding times for some of these parameters. So there's instructions that came with the samples and talks about holding times. So you need to return the samples as soon as you can to the lab. You can refrigerate the samples for a short amount of time because you want to keep them cold. But ideally, you want to take your sample and ship it to the lab the same day if you can. Now, the thing is, you don't want to ship over a weekend, so we don't want to ship it on a Friday, and they're not going to get the sample till Saturday. So you want to ship it at the very latest on Thursday so they get it on Friday, or you can do it earlier in the week. But you can use the ice packs, or you can do a short time in the refrigerator. We talked about the crushed ice being in a double bagging mat, and like I said, refrigeration is allowed, but you don't want to do that if you cannot. You want to be able to avoid that if you at all can. So it's just something to think about. I know you don't have a choice on when it rains and when you can take your sample. Try to take it and ship it the same day if you can. But here we've loaded up all the bottles, and we have our ice packs in here. But we're also going to, just for demonstration purposes, show the ice being double bagged. That fits right in here too, and that is fine. Got to remember to put your chain of custody in. Again, that's in a bag also, so in case something leaks, they can still read your chain of custody, which is very important. Otherwise, they won't know where this is from. So put that in there too, definitely in a Ziploc bag. The whole thing comes in a big bag, so just close it all up. Again, the whole idea is to keep it as watertight as you can. And then you put the lid on. Close that up, put it in the box, tuck it in better, and then it should be ready to ship.
Nice job.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, bubble wrap.
There you go.
When you get your results back from the lab, Cornerstone can help you understand what they mean. Cornerstone can also help you in your stormwater written plans with your stormwater permits, locating your outfalls, and doing site visits to assist you in anything stormwater related.
Well, we hope you enjoyed your time with Cornerstone. We hope these videos were very informative. And please let us know if you have any questions. There'll be a phone number on here you can call, and hopefully we can help you out with things in the future. Thank you.
Thanks.